Spinning wheels. So we were just talking about your microphone, Tom. Is this
Yes.
your microphone's first show? It's like debuting in prime time on Wednesday nights here on MHI?
Yes, it is. This is the debut of the new microphone, and hopefully there's not a bunch of problems. So
No, it sounds great, man. Blue Yeti, absolutely love those microphones. Sure.
yeah.
I've got that microphone. Any microphone you could spin into and people are listening, it's probably going to work out for you. At
I
least
hope
that's
so.
That's the way it works out for us. It's how we've had the success that we've had thus far with our friends and family on this very show. It's a
That's
Wednesday
right.
night, Mile High Insiders. He is Thomas Hall. I am Luke Patterson, and we appreciate you guys for rocking with us. I'm going to let the stream breathe for just a second and say hello to some good folks in the chat. But before we do, what's up, Tom? How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. The weather's turning nice, getting closer and closer to the draft, and and closer to football. I'm
Mm.
really enjoying it, man. It's been good. It's been real good.
Spring is here, and happy belated Easter to all those who celebrate here in MHH. And Dominique Martin coming in fast and furious. MHH for life. Shout out to all the ladies of MHH, and salute to all my fellow MHH brothers. That's right. We've got a great following here at MHH of guys, gals, children, I might add. It's pretty cool, man, to see not only our family come together, but our friends. We get to learn and meet new people, just as you did last year at the meet and greet. I will this year. I won't have a broken arm, knock on wood.
Hopefully.
Knock on wood. But no, Dominique, we really appreciate you joining us here on MHI on your Wednesday night. Dylan Von Arks coming in as well, one of our own, saying, "What up, Broncos country? Make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and subscribe if you have not done so already." Just like I got Kevin. Kevin's always in here early. Hey, Broncos country. Tom, Luke, hi, Dominique, Dylan, showing love to everybody. Saying I'm getting frustrated. They never give fans much of anything. Kevin, I'm trying to give you all of everything. But stay tuned. Stay tuned, big dog, because it's kind of a dry period right now. Not only at MHH, right? You're like, where's all the action? We're talking about scoreboards and OTAs. I get it. I'll say this, man. Chad is a businessman, and Chad definitely finds ways here at MHH to take care of our fans. See our giveaways from the last fall. We try to wait just a little bit to get you locked into football season. That's when the action happens, Kevin. So stay tuned, buddy. We got you. David coming in as well. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag Buckham. And I got to get my guy Dave in again, because Dave was in before the show started, wanting to get a piece of you and I here on MHI, saying hashtag MHH for life, Denver Broncos for life. We appreciate that $5 super chat, David. And hopefully you had a great Easter, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it. And I'm going to grab another great supporter. Michael Runkia was in the house. As always, we love to see you here supporting us with some Facebook stars. So thank you very much. Saying good evening, Thomas Hall and Luke on the Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos and Buckham.
Yeah, Buckham. And Mike, I actually was thinking about you last night. So I watched my first NBA game of the entire season, right? Because I'm deep into the draft, deep into football. Don't have time for much else. I'm watching the Lakers. I'm watching the Timberwolves. And it got me thinking about Mike, because Mike's diehard Broncos, but he's in Arizona. And as I understand it, Kevin Durant and the Suns are going to be in the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets are in the playoffs, Michael. Makes me wonder, who are you rooting for, buddy? Get at us in the comment section as well. Here in the Mile High City, people are very, very excited about basketball, about hockey. But this little thing called football tends to dominate, even if the Denver Broncos always haven't. Specifically the last 6 years, Tom. We are just 2 weeks away from the NFL draft tomorrow. I mean, that's where we're at. 2 weeks from tomorrow, the NFL draft is here. Sean Payton's first draft as the Broncos head coach. Man, time is going, though. It's going.
Yeah, it's coming up quick, and if you guys are bored, go to my Tableau public page, Thomas Hall, Tableau public, and you can mess around with the draft value calculator that I built in Tableau. So give you some ideas of what trading would be like and what positions are more valuable by rounds. Go check it out if you're bored. If you want to do something like that, it's free to use. So it's fun, and give me some feedback. So I'm going to be using it, during the draft live just to see if somebody made a dumb trade or not, you know?
I've played with it, and it's really nice to use when you guys are using your mock drafts right now, right? You send everybody your mock draft. Look, I figured it out. Use this calculator, try to figure out some of the trades and what they can ultimately look like, and then hold some of those things. Keep your rough drafts. So when the draft actually comes, see how you hit, see how everybody fares. We all do it. We all sit there. I'm one of the first ones to do it. I want to know who I hit on, who I didn't, at least the teams that I thought were going to go position and or player. It's a really cool tool that you've put a lot of heart and soul, and it's a labor of love, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, it's a ton. Well, just getting the data together is ton, because there's manual work. You know, I've got to go in and decipher who is an edge rusher between a defensive lineman and who's really a linebacker, not an outside edge rusher. So it takes some time, and I'm going to start improving it too when I get a little more time on my hands. But yeah, it's fun to use. It's it's just another tool that you can have to mess around with the draft. And I'll tell you, man, a while back when I had Gridiron Orange back in the olden days when I was had my own blog, I actually tried to build a predictive model for the first round of the mock draft. And, you know, it was pretty nice when you could, you know, it was all static. You can, you know, kind of do it. But then when the year that I tried it out was the year that Tunsil did the gas mask thing and dropped, and it just blew up the whole thing. And I was like, I tried it again the next year, and I was like, I'm scrapping this. It's too unpredictable.
Well, now look at him, Laramie Tunsil, right? I mean, we're laughing still now, but he is ultimately getting the last laugh as he gets paid. What, with the Houston Texans? That's where he's at.
Yeah,
Laramie Tunsil, I think, right?
So got the big bucks.
Yeah, the big bucks. You're seeing guys make some mistakes, make some waves. You're seeing guys get injured. I mean, it's a very delicate time right before the NFL draft. Speaking of delicate, we got all kinds of delicate love for our guy, GLP. Gary Leeds Palmer. Appreciate you so much. Gary's absolutely rocking with us 24/7. He is in the trenches. You know, when I'm getting mud thrown on me by Raiders fans or Chargers or Chiefs Kingdom, Gary's right there with me, and he's got my back just like a lot of you folks do. And we really, really appreciate you, Gary. Hopefully you had a great Easter as well. I want to say what's up to my guy, Greg Smith. Good evening, Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Greg's another one of those guys who's an absolute dog and is excited about Broncos country 2023 and where this offseason is going to take this team. It starts now, and it's something we're going to talk about here on this very show, Greg. I know you're excited to get into it. Want to say what's up to our friend Michaela Israel and Cooper listening. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Had a fantastic Easter. And let's say hello to a few more folks. Bobby Robbies, how's everyone doing tonight? I'm doing pretty good, Bobby. Hopefully you're doing well too, man. Football is right around the corner. 2 weeks, the NFL draft. Sean Payton's offseason program started yesterday, Tom. And the first guy in the building, one of the first guys, that's your quarterback, slim, trim, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I've never had any problem with how hard he works. I mean, it wasn't ever that. I mean, I think he put on weight to try and do something different was the wrong thing to do. Obviously, he's back trim and slim, ready to go. First one in the building, ready to work out. It was other things. It wasn't his lack of desire or anything like that. So, Patrick, thank you for coming in. Aloha, probably from Hawaii, the beautiful state of Hawaii. Hopefully you're soaking it up on the beach, you know, and I'm jealous of you doing that while you're listening to the show, because I need a vacation. I need a tropical vacation. I haven't been on a real vacation in a long time, so it's definitely time.
Invite us over, Patrick. Invite us over to your spot on the rock there in Hawaii. Real quick thing about Hawaii. I absolutely love Hawaii. Colt Brennan was one of my favorite quarterbacks, rest in peace, in all of college football. In that Jones offense at Hawaii, he did some pretty special stuff. You look around from that Hawaii team, I think there were 2 other guys who actually went on to have lengthy NFL careers. And it's always kind of interesting when you look at the University of Hawaii, of course, Ashley Lilly comes to mind, right, for the Denver Broncos, Hawaii zone. And it's good to see you, Patrick, because it's really cool, man, when you've got so many different folks at Broncos country repping their hood in orange and blue. Bobby coming back in saying, looking forward to the draft. Gage, I see you in the chat. and he was responding to some comments about Russell Wilson looking lean and trim. Gage coming in saying the weight that he gained was muscle mass. It was a good idea gone bad. I remember standing next to Luke at camp and being shocked at how stout Russ looked. And yeah, man, Russ was a thick boy. He definitely looked like he was putting more calories in and pumping a lot of iron.
Yeah.
And in a sense, I can understand that a little bit, right? You try to protect yourself from the beating that you're going to take, especially from that offensive line in the 2022 season. But at the same time, you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face because the best part of your game has always been running for your life. And you can't do that when you're out there like a muscle pig, like Russell Wilson was last year. That's really, really tough. And it was a good observation from Gage. It's not what we're seeing this year at all. We're seeing the lean, trim. Russ looks like himself again. He's obviously been working. And one of the big themes of the show, Gage, is what does Russell Wilson being the first guy into the offseason program mean? Look, it's the typical cliche, right? The quarterback should be first man in, last man out. But when you look at this and you truly look at Russell Wilson and who he's trying to become as a quarterback heading into year 12, I'm super excited. He's coming in lean and trim, which tells me he's prepared. He's taken Sean Payton's challenge seriously on the physical and mental aspect. And what I mean by mental, you don't see a lot of videos coming out of Russ's camp right now. Camp 3 is pretty quiet. So I think we're not going to talk to the media. We're going to work, not twerk attitude from Sean Payton is definitely going to pay dividends.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, they've already bought into it. It appears if they hadn't already bought into it, then you'd see people out there doing stuff on social media and get in trouble with the coach and everything, but you're not seeing it. You're seeing the work is ready to be put in, and they're also not having media days all the time. They're not talking about how hard they worked out or anything like that. They're just going in doing business as usual kind of thing, and really it's a refreshing change from what we saw in the past, especially when that tactic didn't play out on the field in a successful way. So different isn't always good, but this different seems good for the football field.
I'm coining it right now, and you heard it first here on MHI. It's all work, no twerk. I don't want to see it. Show me the results. And that's what Sean Payton is at. That's one of the reasons that Sean Payton said, look, we're not doing voluntary minicamp. Y'all need to get in shape. Y'all need to get calloused up in the weight room a little bit. Y'all need to get your cardio right. I mean, that was a pretty strict, direct message to this football team of you should have been working. If you haven't been working already, you're about to pay in this offseason program. You're going to pay the man because not a single player can come into training camp out of shape here in 2023 under Sean Payton's watch. He's made that very, very clear. Peter Middleton, good morning from Hong Kong. Good morning. MHI is the Broncos for breakfast this morning over in Hong Kong. Peter, we appreciate you so much. Peter's been rocking with us, as you know, Tom, for a very, very long time. Absolutely. And we appreciate the love. Speaking of love, our girl, Michaela Israel, what's up? Thank you so much for all of your support. Good friend of ours. You guys rock. My MHI t-shirt will be here tomorrow. I'm excited to rock the swag, and we're excited with you. We're proud. We're grateful. We're thankful. I know Michael Ronquillo said he's going to get himself a shirt, or at least it should be en route by now, but it's super cool to see so many folks representing this show's colors. You can do that with a hat. You can do that with a shirt. Head on over to mhhmerch.com and get your swag on, just like our friend Michaela Israel. Appreciate you so much, Michaela. Hopefully you and Cooper are doing well. Here we are, Wednesday night, 2 weeks before the NFL draft, and Thomas and I are reacting to the Broncos starting their offseason physical conditioning program, weightlifting, get yourself better, whatever you want to call it. The Broncos are doing it starting yesterday, and Russell Wilson beat everybody in before the sun rose, according to Mike Kliss and some 9 News guys that were down there yesterday. And look, the weight room was open by 4:30 in the morning. It's being run by new strength and conditioning head coach, Dan Dalrymple, who came over from the New Orleans Saints. This guy's supposed to be a dog. Everything I'm asking about with this guy is no nonsense, very educational, so many resources, but you better put the work in. I'm super pumped that the Broncos have started their offseason program. We're that much closer. And the vets over there, this is when you bond with guys. This is when you get to know your teammates. This is when you become friends, right? I mean, I feel like a little kid talking about that. Become friends. Hi, do you want to be my friend? No, not so much of that. But when you guys are getting your asses kicked together by the strength and conditioning coach, you're going to band together at a certain point, and that's where the magic is really made.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is the time when the bonding starts, regardless of whether it's lifting weights or, going bowling or whatever. You do have to have that bond to go onto the field and do battle, right? That's what it is. It's a battle. They get paid a lot, but they're still out there putting their bodies on the line. And, bonding over this new strength and conditioning, hopefully that brings some good fortune, having not only the new strength and conditioning coach, but Lowry coming in with that expertise and keeping people healthy. And that was the biggest downfall. I'll say it again. I know Hackett was a terrible coach, but one of the biggest downfalls of this team was the amount of injuries. And let's get it right before we even see, this is the attitude. We're not going to go out there and practice until we get our bodies right. And that's a good tactic. And thank you, Malcolm, for coming in from Homer, Alaska. Appreciate it. Hopefully it's starting to warm up there a little bit. I can't wait to visit Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska, one of the bucket list places for me too, man. I would love to fish Alaska, hunt Alaska, everything Alaska. I would absolutely love it. Jesse Hilborn coming in saying patience is a virtue. That's true. And that's something I struggle with. I'm not a very patient human being. It's very hard for me to be patient. But the older I get, I'm kind of forced to be patient. I learned that. I'm taking it in stride. Phil McLaughlin, one of our guys, saying, remember, guys, we play tackle football. So that's just it. I mean, tackle football. How important is it for you to get your body calloused and right now in the off season before you get to the dog days of summer where you're hitting, you're asking your body to do things in extreme temperatures under less than ideal circumstances at certain points of training camp, right? I mean, it's going to be a new training camp. We don't know what to expect with Sean Payton. We've seen the New Orleans Saints training camps from a distance over here. We really haven't been up close and personal. It sounds like it's going to be an intense training camp. What better way to get your guys better right now than getting them in the weight room for the next 8 to 10 weeks?
Yeah, well, that's it. You said it, getting them callous. I mean, you can lift weights all you want, and you can do conditioning, and that's going to get your body ready. But like Payton said, when training camp rolls around and you have the preseason, you're going to have hitting, you're going to have tackling, and that's feels right. You play tackle football, and you can't get your body ready by keeping everybody out of preseason and not doing tackling that often, because there's only a certain. I mean, the only way you really get your body ready is by playing the game, by like hitting and tackling and blocking. It's just the way it is. And you can lift weights all you want, but it's going to come down to it. And Sean Payton has said that's going to be the new norm, so to speak. The new approach is going out there and tackling and hitting as much as they possibly can. Obviously the collective bargaining agreement limits some of those tackling practices and stuff like that, but they'll do it as much as they possibly can, which was not happening last season.
No, and you're looking for a whole new culture and how to build that. It's already started over there with Sean Payton, guys. I mean, this no media policy, while I hate it because, I don't get a lot of access, don't get a lot of stories. I love it. It's so old school. And I mean, Sean Payton has just gone so bare minimum with what he's willing to say, how he's willing to say it at times. It doesn't mean he's holding back. I mean, he's going out there and he's throwing some absolute declarations down for Broncos country to hear and to pick up and run with. But speaking with Nine News, he said just yesterday, quote, "We're just going to go to work." And I absolutely love it. Makes me think of Biggie Smalls, real bad boys moving silence. And that's what the Broncos are trying to do right now under Sean Payton. Keep in mind, we still haven't met any of the coordinators. Joe Lombardi, special teams coach Ben Kotkwa, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. We've met him before, but you would have thought he would have been reintroduced as the other two coordinators would have been introduced. That's not going to happen. And this is on purpose, folks. It's not because Sean Payton's a prick. It's not because he's wanting to do things his way. It's because he's trying to keep everything contained, and he's trying to build something. And you can't build something from the outside looking in.
Well, and it removes distractions. I mean, obviously there were a lot of distractions last year. That's why everybody was talking in the media about the Broncos. Though.
Yep.
Oh, Russell Wilson did this or somebody did that. Oh, this guy's on. That's
Gucci.
all a distraction. It's a distraction, right? Not just, I mean, not for us. I
High
mean,
knees.
as media
You didn't
members,
like
we
high
love it.
knees? You didn't like high knees on the
Yeah.
plane before Jacksonville, Tom?
But the distraction, because then you're hearing on social media, they are. There's players that are hearing it, or they're getting questions about it in the, from the media, because we want to hear, why were you doing high knees? That type of stuff. But if you keep it all in house, it removes the distractions and it can focus the players and the coaches more on what's important. And that's turning around this Broncos franchise. Because let's face it, that needed to happen. It needs to be turned around. People who've watched the Broncos for any amount of time are not used to this mediocrity and downright pathetic win-loss column, so to speak. They're not used to it. So it's time to turn it around. And that is, from my perspective, that's how you do it. Remove distractions, make people get to work.
Boom. And you got to put your money where your mouth is. The Broncos just went out and led the NFL in free agency. They went on a spending spree, folks. You guys know what I'm talking about. 13 players, a combined $241.25 million. $241 million for 13 new players on the 2023 Denver Broncos roster, which is, of course, led by the two big dogs on the offensive line, right? Yep. Left guard Ben Powers, starting right tackle Mike McGlinchey. They're looking at $30.5 million per year for the both of those guys. So the Broncos went out and they did a lot of talking. Now they got to put their money where their mouth is in the weight room. I mean, you went out there and you brought in and bought a lot of talent. Sure. What are you going to do with that talent? That's what we got to figure out. I mean, keep in mind, Broncos country, people like to say and ask all the time, is the nucleus of this team back together? And I ask, what was the nucleus? We're trying to form a nucleus right now. It means that you still have some guys on the old guard from last year, right? You look at a Pat Surtain and Justin Simmons, great players, and you absolutely need them. But how are they going to gel with these two leaders in their own right? When looking at a Ben Powers or a Mike McGlinchey. FPL Dalmatian coming in saying, I'm enjoying all of the content from MHH, helping a new NFL fan catch up with all things Broncos from over the pond in the UK. And FPL, that is absolutely awesome. Welcome. We're happy to have you here in Broncos country, and we're really happy to have you here on MHI.
Yeah, and I wanted to grab that comment just so that you're learning a lot of different things in Mile High Huddle, right? Everybody has a different perspective. You have a different perspective than me. Another show has a different perspective. Some are just completely based on different perspectives, like my show on Friday is a more historical show. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for giving us a chance over in the UK, man. We really appreciate it. FPL Dalmatian. So yeah, appreciate it.
Well, but and real quick, FPL, you are in outstanding company. Because as Broncos country knows from that UK game last year with the Jags, Broncos country UK is alive and well and has been for a very long time. We have one of our own over there, Keith. Our guy Keith is over there over the pond, man, and he's just repping it, always writing. I think he writes everybody under the table, to be completely honest with you. I mean, he's literally working while we're all sleeping, and it's super cool to see Broncos country UK repping MHI.
Yeah. And I just like to say something about the nucleus, creating the nucleus. And that's been the problem. That's why the Broncos have, in my opinion, there's a lot of reasons why the Broncos haven't been good, but they've missed out on the draft to build that nucleus. That, there's a few players that have kind of stuck around, but for the most part, the draft has been a lot of misses, for the last several years until recently. We had some pretty decent drafts, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody. It happens. It's hard to find those players, but you got to get lucky in the draft and build that nucleus of good, solid players. And you can't do it with just a first round pick, and then a bunch of misses in later in the draft. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sean Payton and George Payton can do in this draft to build, to hit on some of those third and fourth round players, because that's going to be your nucleus going forward. Because pretty soon Simmons is going to be gone at some point. Some of these older players, you got to marry them up to these free agents and just keep moving on. Keep some of that salary cap at a lower hit so you can bring some of these players in. So I think this draft is very, very important, not necessarily for this year, but the next year and the year following. They have to hit on a couple of these later round picks, and it's luck. I'm telling you. I know you have to put a lot of work in. Don't get me wrong. You've got it. Like I keep saying, it's like the game of craps. You've got to bet the right bets, right, in order to not lose all your money. But at the same time, you got to have some sort of luck when it comes to hitting on these players just right, because you never know if that player is going to pan out because, you know, maybe they're not hard worker, they get injured or whatever. There's some luck involved, and so this is an important draft, even though we're sitting here looking at no first or second rounders.
There's a lot of money on the line when you own an NFL franchise and you go out and, again, you spend $241.25 million if you're Greg Penner and the Denver Broncos. That's what they did. Greg Penner saying, I did it in free agency. George, you're up. And George Payton has definitely got a lot on his plate, a lot to figure out as our guy, Alabama Chagrin, comes in. Love the show. Could we move up for a certain player? 100%. Maybe you even move up for 2. I mean, Broncos country, I get it. You're saying, wait, we don't pick until round 3, number 67. The Broncos only have 5 picks. That's right now. As we're sitting Wednesday, April 12th, they have 5 picks. A lot can change before the NFL draft. A lot can change during the NFL draft. And we have seen George Payton move up and move down. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's moved up a little bit more than he's moved down.
That's right.
He likes to try to wheel and deal. He likes to acquire picks and futures and things of that nature. But a certain player, for me, I would love an offensive tackle. I like DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State a lot. Also like that Cody Mock out of North Dakota State. Wrote about him when I was at the Senior Bowl. Both players very outstanding. It's how much do you like him? And do you love them enough to give something up? The Broncos have been giving up a lot of pieces, folks. Say what you want about Russell Wilson. They gave up a lot to get him. Say what you want about Sean Payton. They gave up a lot to get him. Not exactly in a position to give up a lot, but if it's for the right guy, an offensive tackle, sign me up.
Yeah. Well, and the thing of it is how far are you going to move up? I mean, you could move up into the bottom of the second round if you give up one of your thirds and one of your fourths, probably. I mean, that's about what you would say the probability of getting a player of equivalent, probability of giving up those 2 picks. But then, now you're one less pick, and are you really better off? I don't know. It's one of those things where it has to be the right player that they love in order to give up what is necessary to move up, really. And you're not going to move up into the first round unless you're giving up, pretty much most of your picks, really. So you're looking at, moving up probably 10 to 15 picks from the first part of the third round into the, latter part of the second round, and you can grab somebody. But again, that's it's one of those things where you're just taking more, arrows out of your quiver, and, you have less of a chance of hitting. So you have to really, really like the player.
You got to love him. I mean, you really do. And you got to love him enough to be committed with him for a long time. You also got to ask, is this a player that can immediately help you right now? That's a question that people need to really look at, because you don't count on guys getting hurt in training camp. You don't count on Tim Patrick going down on a weird part of the field, non-contact injury. These things happen, though, every single year, and every single year, for lack of a better phrase, teams are caught with their pants down, and this is when hitting on the draft becomes so crucial.
Yeah. And I think their main focus has to, in this draft, has to be on the offensive line, because number one, they don't, the book is still out, and the book is almost closed on Lloyd Cushenberry. I mean, let's face it. And on top of that, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after the season. So they're going to have to go to the center position for sure. And I know there's a question in here, and it was way back there, and I'm sorry, we didn't really get to it right away. Someone's asking about swing tackle. The cupboard's pretty bare on that as well, right? I mean, they had to bring back Quinn Bailey, who's pretty young. I mean, he did okay. But, their only experienced swing tackle is Isaiah Prince, and he hasn't played that much. He's had some playing time. He started, I think, 6 games over his career. He's played in a few. He really was out in 2020, from COVID. So, I don't like taking a risk on bringing in a offensive tackle in the draft and hoping he's that swing tackle. I'd rather see some experience, but they're going to have to make some decisions for this year and the future on the offensive line, even though they want to spend out all that money. I mean, do you really want to risk having your offensive line backups, with the little experience that they have? I don't know if I'd want to, but they're going to have to make some decisions later in the draft, maybe even in the third round on a one player on the offensive line.
Well, and String Guy coming in here saying, Tom, the Broncos are due for some luck, man.
Yeah,
They've had very little the last 7 years. Seven's supposed to be a lucky number, right? Especially here in Broncos country. I like the odds with Sean Payton running the show. And I think people are very optimistic with what they're seeing right now from Sean Payton. I think we're all a little caught off guard, but I haven't heard a lot of people upset about the no media policy, unless, of course, you're in Broncos media like we're in. It's an old school approach, but it's the right approach. And I would challenge anyone to debate me saying the Broncos need to put more workout videos on Twitter. The Broncos need to put more behind the scene videos out there and share with the fan base. Why? We've done that and nothing has really come of it except for egg on the face moments. And Broncos country's sick of being the butt of everyone's joke. We've talked about that here on MHI for a long time. And I'm just sitting here and I'm watching what Sean Payton's doing. I'm watching the no media policy, and I could just sit there and smile. And because I feel like Sean's going to get the last laugh. And people aren't really thinking, what are the Broncos doing right now, right? Out of sight, out of mind. Well, they're not out there tweeting up their business. They're not out there running routes in the sand, Jerry Jeudy. They're not out there making workout videos, Garrett Bowles. They're in the lab grinding. And that's what champions do, man. You didn't see all of Kobe Bryant's free throws that he shot at 6 a.m, with the Redeem team. And you didn't see the stories of MJ. I mean, these things, greatness goes unnoticed in the practicing hours.
Well, and I don't mind it at all, really. I know I we're in the media and we want to hear this, but to me, like the allure of the insider, of getting that story first really never was something I cared about, because it's like watching a movie when it comes out on midnight or seeing it at 2:00 the next day. The news still comes out. I still understand it. I still get the news. I'm more interested on what is happening on the field. Give me an analyst any day who can break down what's actually going on at training camp, as opposed to breaking something first. So I'm for it, totally for it. But I would like to address that luck, that little luck comment that we just had.
We're due for some luck.
At what Sean Payton has done, in the past drafts, and he has hit on later round picks. In fact, the Saints, over the course from 2009 to 2019, where he was the main guy doing the drafting and whatnot, they hit on more impact players than any other team. Their percentage of impact players being selected in the draft when he was running the show until 2019, of course, was higher than anybody else, higher than the Kansas City Chiefs, which is why the Chiefs have been so dominant. I mean, they've got a good coach, great quarterback, but they also had a ton of impact players that they found in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. And that's what Payton is bringing to the Broncos. Now, we can't always bet on what's happened in history, going to repeat itself here at the Broncos. But you've got two good talents, right? You've got George Payton, who's been a pretty good drafter, and you've got the head coach now, who's also had a track record of picking those right players. So that combination that he had in the Saints, with Loomis, may translate here as well with the eye for talent and snagging those players that people didn't think were coming.
Hopefully more wins and good luck. Like String Guy said, we need wins and we need luck. We need those two things coming. Peter Middleton, thank you for coming back for more here on MHI. Last season's preseason, we gave praise to Nathaniel Hackett's approach to the media and all of his positivity. What have we as fans learned from last year about the type of coach that the Broncos need? That's a fantastic question, Peter. In fact, that is such a fantastic question. That's the type of question that should be asked when media days eventually come around. But that's the type of question that will not be asked. You know why? Because reporters like to pull their punches, especially when you got a guy like Sean Payton out there who will give you a real answer, and he will put you on blast if he feels the need to do it. And that's the type of coach you need. You don't need a guy that everybody loves. You need a guy that everybody fears and respects. That, my friends, is an NFL head coach.
Yeah, I was one of those people that bought into Hackett's approach. I was pretty excited. I was really excited because Russell Wilson, right? That
we just liked him because he was a Star Wars guy.
But I was excited and I kind of bought into it, right? But the problem is you don't necessarily need like a hard ass, so to speak. You need someone that the players respect and can play for. I just don't. It wasn't that the people didn't, or the players didn't respect Hackett, because I think as it went along, even when he was fired, people were kind of disappointed. They had respect for him. The problem was that he wasn't translating his leadership onto the field. There was a mess of an offense. There was people that weren't being held accountable in the right way. Those type of things are what are important. I guarantee you, Sean Payton's not going to let someone keep playing and fumbling the ball away when they fumble it a bunch of times. Right after the second one, that guy's out of the game. But it's
Melvin,
not, it wasn't just that. He was, it was an inconsistency. Why was Albert O not on the field? But what happened? He didn't like him, so he wasn't putting him out on the field. But there was no accountability. You could say, oh well, he can't block well. Yeah, well, you're letting Melvin Gordon fumble the ball away and games away. That's the type of accountability. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit of element of being a hard ass and getting the best out there, but it's the right leadership, right? It's the right
hard ass,
holding people accountable the correct way. It's being consistent. It's having that knowledge base, the leadership and the knowledge base to put something out on the field that works. People respect that. Some people don't respect a coach that's an ass, right? I mean, they just don't. But if you do it the right way, if you're correcting in the right way and you're correcting people and that translates to wins, that's the big thing. If it doesn't translate to wins, I don't care what type of coach you are. People won't respect you. It has to happen on the field, and I think it will. I mean, he has a track record of doing that. So people are buying in because he's Sean Payton.
Yeah, he holds folks accountable, but he doesn't throw players under the bus. It would have been so easy for Sean Payton to come in as the new head coach for the Denver Broncos and just rail on Russell Wilson. Last year was horrible. It's back to the lab. I can't wait to reinvent his game. Blah, 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 blah. That's not it. I mean, Sean Payton was just at the combine a couple months ago defending Russell Wilson, saying none of you guys, and you guys being the media, none of you guys cared about the office that he had before training camp. Why'd you care afterwards? I mean, this is a guy who doesn't do things for no reason. He is very calculated. And you're right. He's not just a hard ass to be a hard ass. He's a hard ass when he needs to be, right? Just like us parents. I mean, you can't always be your kid's best friend. Otherwise, they're going to walk all over you. Sometimes you need to lay down the law a little bit and be the not so good guy and be the bad guy. And it sucks. None of us like to do it. But you know what? It gets results. And if you don't do it, your kid's probably a turd or your football team is horrible. I mean, that's it.
The important piece, and they are doing this by bringing in these other players, and they're not re-signing certain players. You have to have the right player.
You're good.
Am I okay? Sorry. Something, I think I might have hit my mute button or something. But I get what I'm trying to say is when you have to have the right players, right, to buy into the system, especially if you're going to have a hard ass kind of system, with like Bill Parcells, right? And if you look back when Bill Belichick went to the Cleveland Browns, his system didn't work because he didn't have the right players to buy into it. His own quarterback, Bernie Kosar, had to be traded away because he was railing against that type of leadership, right? So you see Sean Payton and George Payton are getting together to bring in the right players, hopefully that buy into a system right away. And I don't think he has the same type of style as Bill Belichick does, because that can be grating on players. But you have to bring the right players in to buy into it. And that's why Belichick had more success in New England right away. Not only did he have a Hall of Fame, coach or quarterback fell in his lap, he already had players still left over from the Belichick days and Pete Carroll who bought into that type of system. And that's why he was able to really move that forward right away and get those wins early on, so more people buy into it. That's what Sean Payton has to do. If he comes in as a hard ass and they don't win right away and they start losing all the time, people are just going to be like, well, we don't want it. We don't want to do this. We don't want to be a part of a team that's losing and a jerk of a head coach. So you have to bring in the right players. And I think that's why people are some fans and analysts are a little upset that they didn't re-sign certain players. Well, that's probably a calculated move.
Well, and he's also, speaking of calculated, I mean, he also likes to have fun. Let's not forget that the funnest thing in the world in the NFL is winning football games, period. End of story. There's nothing else. It is winning and getting paid. And those two things are always linked. And look, Sean Payton came and told Broncos country during his first introductory press conference about Club Dub. What is Club Dub? Club Dub was money that he got the Saints to front for a traveling sound system, so that when the Saints whipped up on someone on the road, that other team's locker room and whole stadium could hear them partying in the locker room, in the visiting locker room. That is how Sean Payton connects with some of his guys. Look, football players, at the end of the day, we've all played it at some level, right? Whether it be flag, touch, competitive, high school, middle school, whatever. We've all played the game of football at some point. We're all just children when we play this game, right? And what do we look for? We look for the reward system. Same thing happens with coaching. And I'm not talking about Vic Fangio ice cream days or Nathaniel Hackett taking the boys bowling days in the summer. That stuff starts now in this offseason program with let's get punished and maybe we're not going to have such a hard leg day the next day. I mean, the dog days of the conditioning program are happening right now, and they're being led by a very in shape Russell Wilson. And if Russell Wilson's coming into the building in shape, the Broncos have spent all that cheddar looking to get this roster in shape. I can't help but think things are going to be different. Ernie Mays, our guy, coming in saying, we don't need no stinking first or second round picks. And I absolutely love it. And Ernie gets it. Ernie's tired of hearing me talk about how I love George Payton and how I think he's a very good scout. We're about to find out how good a scout he is. If he truly only has those 5 picks, again, 2 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, and 1 in the 6th, that's a lot of pressure on just 5 picks.
You can't go wrong with a treasure of the Sierra Madre quote, right? It's badges. It's first and second round picks, but it's it's badges now. So it's I want to see it. I want to see the proof in the pudding, right? I think he actually hit on some players that we're going to see start to make some noise in the next couple of years. Some of the later round picks. So I like some of his selections, and we'll see what happens. I know Javonte Williams got injured. That was a great pick. It's just unfortunate that he got injured, but there's some other picks that I think are going to come around, that we're going to see start making some hay this year and next year, that we're going to say, oh yeah, George Payton did hit on some of these guys, and it kind of out of necessity, right? Like the safety room right now is pretty thin. They're not, unless they bring Jackson back. I mean, you're going to have to see his pick, like Delaren Turner-Yell, start to make some hay, or they're going to be in some trouble, right? Like they're going to need that person to step up and play good football as a backup. You got Caden Stearns, you got Justin Simmons, and then you got Yell and PJ Locke, right? That's it. So some necessity D-line, you've got the two second year players that they drafted. If they're not going to bring in an experienced guy, those people are going to have to step up. So you're going to see kind of necessity, and they're going to say, people are going to be like, whoa, that was a pretty good draft pick.
I like PJ Locke. He's a good player, but we've got to take our fan hats off when it's, I heard him on an interview with a local podcast and he's the best player ever. Really? That defensive secondary needs an improvement. And I'm hearing the same rumors you are, and you mentioned it. I mean, maybe Kareem Jackson comes back on a team friendly. No, it's time to start over. And Kareem Jackson, I mean, so many times has been freelancing, so many times has dealt friendly fire. I mean, it's time to move on. I don't care if you're good in an interview. I don't care what you've done in the past. You talk about this all the time. What are you going to do for me now and in the future? That's the way the Denver Broncos are going to look at every position, including safety, including quarterback. I mean, the Broncos fans are sitting here saying safety. I mean, Justin Simmons is the man. Yeah, he is the man. But what happens when the man gets an injury? You got to have a cat ready to go. And do not tell me that Caden Stearns is going to ball out of control this year. I need to see that first. Phil McLaughlin coming in, being very patient. What do you guys think about getting Moro Ojomo to help out on the D-line? I absolutely love this cat. I'm sure I butchered his name. Nick Kendall can find me later. 6'3", 285, if I can remember, from Texas. Man, this guy can play. I like him a lot. I think he would be an absolute treat in the 4th round for the Denver Broncos, who need to beef up that D-line. Yeah. Offensive tackle, I'm a huge sucker for in the 2nd. Defensive line has got to be addressed, probably a 4th or 5th. And you're going to have to figure out the wide receivers, folks. I've been talking about Michael Wilson from Stanford for a long time. But what's got me buzzing right now about the NFL draft? Quarterback, Broncos country. That's right. Quarterback, rather. The same position that Russell Wilson plays. Yeah. I'm hearing some crazy things right now, Tom. Really crazy things. And I'm looking at some of my favorite folks out there. My good friend Charlie Campbell from WalterFootball.com, who hit on more picks than most last year and is just damn good at his job. Man, he is saying that the Broncos at 68 could go Tanner McKee, quarterback out of Stanford. Now, he just switched this pick up from, I know it's a mock draft, right? Tanner McKee, he had Hendon Hooker there for the Denver Broncos also. So scouts are starting to wonder, quarterback for the Denver Broncos, talking about improving, talking about never being safe in a contract and never being safe in a position. I mean, the quarterback room, it's been addressed in free agency, but are we done yet? Could you see another quarterback being brought into the Mile High City?
I think if it falls right, yeah, but I think it's kind of a luxury pick when you have other areas that you really need to hit on and pick up. I mean, there's
luxury. Quarterback is the most important thing ever, Tom, and you're saying luxury? You're going to make me lose my mind.
When you have 5 picks, right? And to grab somebody to develop, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm always for bringing in a quarterback in the draft because you can develop them, you can trade them if they don't, if you still have a viable quarterback. But with 5 picks, to take one in your first 2 picks early in the third is a bit of a tough one for me to swallow. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't want to go that route just because like I said, you've got to address the center position. You've got to address some future defensive line positions. You
safety.
Right. Safety, right? You got to get some
a lot. That's a lot, Tom.
There's
a lot of positions, dog.
Yeah, there's some depth concerns that you got to bring in. We got Michael Ronquillo coming back in with more Facebook stars. Thank you for the support. Asking a question about centers because we were talking about it, right? Joel Michael Schmidt or Steve Avila are 2 centers I would trade up for in the NFL draft if the price is right. Trading up for a center. What do you think? I'm like I said,
starting to change me, Tom. You're starting to change me. You're starting to change me after reading some of your articles and looking at your analytics and using your calculator. I'm starting to be swayed by the argument of analytics. No, again, analytics are a tool, right? You've got to use it as somewhat of a measuring system that's unbiased because we as human beings, we are biased in absolutely everything. Mike, I love it here. I love that you've identified 2 guys that you absolutely love and want to go after. I would be okay, of course, John Michael Schmitz. I really like Luke Weipler out of Ohio State. I've been pretty emphatic about that since this whole scouting journey began for me in January. Look, there's some centers that you could grab and you could take a roll of the dice on in the later rounds, but the best cream rises to the top of that crop in the first, second, and third rounds. Those are your premium rounds, and it's going to be pretty rich, right? I want an offensive tackle, I do want a center as well, but this is where those decisions come into play, and it's going to be interesting too, Tom, to figure out who kind of had the last say. Right. Another reason I'm looking forward to George Payton and Sean Payton, right? The GM, the head coach, the scout, and the hardened Bill Parcells disciple. I mean, from all reports and accounts, these guys have gotten along just great. And Sean Payton, one of the biggest reasons he came along with that giant contract, George Payton, he has a lot of respect for George. So it's going to be interesting to see when guys and gals over there in that scouting department are splitting hairs to see which direction the Broncos are going to go in, the direction of their head coach or the direction of their general manager. The 2 might actually be really close.
Yeah. And I'd just like to say, I mean, you say they don't trade up to go after one of these centers that you're talking about, Michael, but say they stay put and there's a center and they have to make a decision, right? Between, like we talked about, there's needs at defensive line, there's needs at depth, and there's needs at center. Who do you pick? So when you look at the analytics, right? If you're in the 3rd round, both are pretty small.
You don't pick a guard
player, but it's a 50-50 proposition of finding an interior offensive lineman in the 3rd round who becomes a primary starter for your team versus a 0.3% probability of hitting on a defensive lineman. So you got to make those decisions. Do we go with center? We go with defensive line. You can just keep making those decisions as you go along the draft with those analytics. Now, analytics aren't the end all, right? I'm an analyst, But if you're not doing it right, you're going to screw up. Just like if you're not watching film right, you're going to screw up. So you got to take all these tools and you got to piece them together to make the most informed decision you can. I think that the Denver Broncos, if they don't trade up, have to take a center with one of their first third-round picks. They have to. And I know people keep saying, oh, best player available. Okay, if the best player available every time that you're picking is a running back, are you going to pick 7 running backs? It's not happening, right? You have to weigh a need in there from time, from time to time, right?
Well, and here's another element of that, and I absolutely love talking the draft with you. It's not only position versus position, it's human being versus human being. If you've got a guy that works his tail off, he's a great student, he goes to church every Sunday, takes care of his grandma, takes care of the parking attendant when he's at the club, but he's not at the club that late. Maybe you're liking this guy a little bit more than a cat who's always late to class. He's had problems passing and failing. He's had some drug test issues. I mean, this is where the human element comes into play, because then the Broncos are looking at themselves in the mirror saying, can we really risk it here with this draft pick and this player? And will they ultimately help us now or later or ever? I mean, that's the question. So, yeah, when you get and maybe the Broncos exercise some patience and they wait, it's going to be really tough. And our Butler, I wanted to give him a shout. What's up, Butt? If we do not trade any of our wide receivers, then the 5 picks should be O-line, center, D-line, edge, corner, running back, corner. And I like it. I mean, we need all of them. I'm right there, Butler. But the offensive line, Broncos country is so sick of watching their quarterback, regardless of who it is, get put on their back. I'm with you, Tom. The center, if it's between the center position and offensive tackle or anyone else, I'm going center, because quarterback is the most important position in all of professional sports. And the ball, it kind of matters. So look for the Broncos to upgrade at center. Let's not forget, I forget the guy's name. I'm saying let's not forget, and I forget his name. The Seattle Seahawks center that they got over here, who used to play with Russ. What's that cat's name?
But he's on a 1-year deal. It's what's his name?
Help me out, Broncos country. Who did they?
Kyle Fuller. That's why you're forgetting, because it's Kyle Fuller, the cornerback. Yeah,
neither one of them are that good at football. They're always on 1-year deals.
That's the problem.
You're right. It's a short term.
He could step in this year, but like I said, you still have that future that you have to. And I'm talking about drafting center, not necessarily to be a starter this year, but the future is bleak, because 1-year deal for Fuller, I believe. Cushenberry is going to be a unrestricted free agent. You've got to do that. And you're right. It's hard to judge people's character, right? You have the two similar talents, but like you said, one's always working, one isn't. Like, and I'm back before I even started writing for Mile High Huddle. Back when I was talking about, I looked at Paxton Lynch, the big bust that we had. And I was like looking at, and I know people are going to give me crap about this. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with work. When he came in and blew his Wonderlic test, he had a terrible Wonderlic test. I'm not trying to say that that's why he failed, because he wasn't smart enough. But when you look at how to prepare for a Wonderlic test, if you prepare for it, you get a pretty good score if you're halfway smart. He didn't prepare at all. He did not put in the work. And I said, that guy didn't put in the work, because I've taken the Wonderlic a couple times. And one time I didn't put in the work, and the other time I did. I got a much better score. And I said, he just didn't put in the work. He didn't want to. He knew he was going to have to take the test. Why not study a little bit? Why not go out and work a little bit so you can get your at least average, so people aren't questioning you about whether you're smart enough or not? And that guy can't even read. Paxton Lynch not going to be able to work hard when he's on the, at practice, or he's not paying, doing the film study or whatever. And it turned out he wasn't. He was too busy playing video games.
He can't even read, Tom. That is so funny. You're exactly right, though. I mean, you've got the most important job of your life in this interview, in this process. And you've got some guys saying, I'm not going to visit with a team outside the top 10. That's just the way I am. Folks, Lamar Jackson can't get a contract extension with the Baltimore Ravens, and these prospects are out here thinking they're John Elway going to demand trades. It's not going to happen. Faded Wolf weighing in here with a $5 super. Thank you so much. We appreciate the support here on MHI, and we want to reach out to you. Definitely excited for this coming season. Great show. Hopefully the serious injuries are a thing of the past. Hashtag game changer. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Broncos country for life. We appreciate you, Faded Wolf. You are part of what keeps us going here at MHH, just like all of our friends and our family. And I sense a renewed optimism in Broncos country, a lot like Faded Wolf is getting to here, saying, look, I'm excited. I get it. It's kind of boring right now. Calm before the storm, 2 weeks before free agent, or excuse me, 2 weeks before the NFL draft. But hot damn, we got Sean Payton in our corner, baby. We got a trim Russell Wilson over there working his tail off in the weight room. We got Jerry Jeudy off of Twitter right now. You know, like things are okay here in Broncos country, and I'm excited too. Do you get that sense from Broncos country that they are excited, cautiously optimistic, maybe a little bit of both?
Everybody, it seems like cautious optimism is what everybody's saying, but I think we should be. I said right away when Lowry was hired, the guru of injuries that came in, I said that could be the single most important position hire that came in to change fortunes. I know, bringing in the head coach, Payton, was a huge get. But if they can turn their injury fortunes around, that's going to create more wins than just about any X and O, any NFL draft person you can bring in. Keeping the team healthy is going to translate to more wins than any other move that they could have made. And that's why I'm the most excited. If that pans out, you're going to see a different team.
Buckham, I got to get to Buckham here because I missed it the first time. He's saying Luke Judy's on YouTube right now, and I didn't know that. Maybe Judy's got a. Does Jerry have a show? Does he have a? Let me know, guys. Let me know in the comment section because I would definitely check out a Jerry Judy show. Yeah, Judy might be on YouTube right now, but he's not on Twitter, Buckham, and that's all I need. Like, I don't need anybody sharing anybody's business or anything like that. And Buckham saying, yeah, man, he's a vlogger. I've been underneath a rock, so I've missed the Jerry Judy vlog. It's cool though. I'll say this: when you see players current and past getting their own podcasts in and seeing a lot of these guys have success away from the football field and doing it in real time. There are lots of athletes in the NFL, current players that host their own podcasts. You think of the Kelsey brothers right away. It's super cool. And I think it's a really progressive thing in this business. Some businesses and some old school veteran radio or podcasters don't like it, right? Because they get a little sensitive about their territory. I think it's great. It gives the fans a new, unprecedented access to these guys in an appropriate platform. I like listening to the I Am Athlete podcast. Written it up a few times. Former Broncos are usually on there. Brandon Marshall, Adam Pac-Man Jones. It's cool to see these guys in a different light, as long as it's not on Twitter, because I did see my guy, I think Tim Patrick, was popping off the other day. I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, but I saw it on a meme with a quote, and he was talking a bunch of junk about the Raiders being fake thugs, and then he said something about the Chiefs too. And I absolutely love when Tim Patrick talks trash.
Him cocky. He was on a show. He was on a podcast. He was on
was
a
he?
podcast talking.
I
about
love TP talking junk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate. I mean, I appreciate people wanting to do their own thing, go on a podcast. I mean, have fun. The problem is when it's a distraction is when that it needs to be shut down, right? If it's distracting to the team and it's a distracting to the individual player that's doing it and they're not performing, then that's a problem. So as long as it's not a distraction, as long as they're doing, going out and everything's cool, fine, no big deal. But once, like I said, once it becomes a lot or becomes a distraction, that's when it's a problem. I was going to grab Michael coming in saying thank you for the great show tonight with some big stars, man. Facebook stars, man. Thank you so much for the support. It's always wonderful. And he's saying great show tonight, Thomas Hall and Luke on Mile High Insiders, Go Broncos and Buckham. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Michael. We always appreciate your support. We appreciate everybody's support, but I mean, you go above and beyond. So we really, really thank you.
Yeah, Mike, you're an absolute dog, man. Thank you so much for supporting us and being so kind. Man, this world is so full of negativity. Sometimes I'm very negative as a human being, and it's cool to see guys like Mike, who are consistently there for Broncos country, consistently there for you, for friends, for family. Seriously, Mike, you mean a lot to us, man. And it's really touching to have your support, just like everybody's support here on MHI on Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Mountain. He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. If you'd like to reach out to Tom directly, that's at Thomas Hall NFL on Twitter. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Be sure to head on over to the mothership at Mile High Huddle. Don't forget to head on over to milehighhuddle.com. It's a fancy new article up right now about some fancy new things going on over at Broncos Stadium at Mile High, whatever the hell they're calling it these days. What is it? UC Health Training Center is the training center. What are they? Is it Empower?
Empower Field at Mile High.
Still Empower? Okay. They're still
I'm going to tell you right now.
Empower?
I would love to make enough money, be rich enough to just buy the naming rights for that stadium for the next 25 years. Can I please, just get enough money to do that? Because it would be Pat Bowlen Field or Pat Bowlen Stadium, and I'd leave it there for the rest of my lifetime, hopefully.
We're going to do that. It's going to be called the Mile High Insiders Stadium. We are definitely taking donations in the form of Super Chat, and you too can be involved in the naming rights. Keith, our guy, coming in saying thanks, Luke and Thomas. Hey, man, happy belated Easter to you and the family. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. We're going to get out of here, but before we do, let's get to our friend Faded Wolf here with another generous 5. Thank you so much, Wolf. I think we see a different Russ this year. I think what Thomas said was on point. Preparation is so important, and we were definitely not prepared last year. Yeah, preparation is key, whether that be physically or mentally, and that's what the Broncos are getting checked and locked into over there together. They're going through all this together. Not one single player can escape the physical and training, cardio, weightlifting, conditioning that Sean Payton has hired his new staff to do. So I completely agree with Wolf on this one. I think that Russ is going to be a comeback candidate of the year. I think that's something that you've said too before, Tom. I mean, that's good doings. That's good fixings here in Broncos country, and it gets me hyped. So I'm right there with you, Wolf.
Well, and you hit it on the head there. It's mentally too. The coach last year was not prepared. This coach this year is going to be prepared, and you're going to see it on the field. You're not going to see the same mental errors. I mean, the preparation is mental. It's X's and O's. It's physical. It's all of it. It's going to come together. And if it doesn't, we're going to see another miserable season. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. I think they're going to be contenders. I mean, they're going to be, I don't know about Super Bowl contenders. They're going to be in every game is what I'm saying. They're going to go out to play, and win or lose, they're not going to blow it because of stupid decisions. That's what I hope happens.
You heard it here on MHI. They're not going to blow it. That's a quote from Thomas Hall. We're going to put it on a t-shirt. Jesse, I wanted to get to you, man. Jesse saying this channel is really amazing. Doesn't matter which MHH pod I catch. It's always entertaining. I always feel engaged and recognized, and that is great content. You guys are a part of the show just as much as we are. It's our show here at MHH. It's our show here at MHI, and we can't wait to show you guys what is coming down the pike here in just 2 weeks for the NFL draft. Again, guys, you heard it. All work, no twerk. 2023 story of the Denver Broncos offseason. Sean Payton, no media, no problem. I hope the boys are working over there. And Tom, we're going to get up out of here. I thought about you the other day real quick as we're heading out the door and how much you said you hated Pulp Fiction and how much I love Pulp Fiction. And I bought myself another wallet. My bad mother wallet was ripped up. I got myself a new one, and this one's black and orange. So when you see it, you're going to have to put some respect on that movie's name.
Hey, I told you I'd watch it again. I haven't done it yet, but I will watch it again with a different perspective.
All right.
Hopefully I can come away at least liking it enough, so that I don't keep getting ridiculed on the show for not liking Pulp
That's
Fiction.
right. Every day. Hey, we'll get a countdown going, guys. He's Thomas Hall. Get it, Thomas at Thomas Hall NFL. Be sure to head on over on Friday mornings and listen to Legends of Mile High podcast, where Tom is breaking it down every Friday morning, and then catch Tom just 24 hours from then. Saturday night, him and Ron are going to be doing the Orange and Blue View. Ron White, one of our new guys, doing a great bang up job. Support all of our guys, all of our gals on all of our platforms. Again, head on over to the mothership at Mile High Huddle, milehighhuddle.com. For Tom, I'm Luke saying Broncos country, this is the way.
This is the way.